Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you the much requested how to make Hypnotic Techno like Oscar and Mulero. As usual, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and all that stuff for this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Let's get started. So, this is a loop you already heard in the intro. We're at 128 BPM, and the first sound we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So what's going on here is we actually have an instrument rack. It's just two layers. We have this kick. So that's obviously like the kick that you're hearing. But then on top of that, I have this hi-hat. So this was something that I noticed listening to a lot of Oscar Mulero's tracks and a lot of just this style of techno in general, is the kick has this very, very hard and sharp sort of attack to it. And the way that you achieve this is just by using a regular kick. And then you layer the hi-hat on top of that. And then when you process them together, like when you put them through all the effects together, you can hear it kind of like glues them together. And yeah, the hi-hat, it's when you hear it on its own, like with just the kick, it sounds maybe a little bit loud. But if you listen to it in the mix, what ends up happening here is like we're already getting so much bright hi-end from these cymbals that really all you're getting from that hi-hat is just the punch, like I was saying. And so you can hear that really like clicking through the mix there. If I turn off the hi-hat, you can hear the kicks a little bit more back in the mix. So it's a small detail, but definitely makes a big difference there. After that, I have those going into the saturator. Here's without this. And then with it, so you can hear it just kind of makes everything a bit fatter. It's also helping to glue the hi-hat with the kick. After that, we have this audio effect rack, and this is how we are doing the rumble. What we have here is we have two chains. We have a dry chain and then a wet chain. And then you can hear the wet chain is the rumble. So what we got going on there is I have this delay going into an amp here. So I'll turn off all the effects. So here's just the delay. It's doing 16 notes. And then that's going into an amp. You can hear the amp makes it sound kind of deep fried. But if you listen, it's really bringing out that like rumbling low end that wasn't present there before. So then the next step is we put it through this auto filter. And there we go. We get just a rumbling low end. And then the only other thing I have on there on the rumble chain is this compressor. This is just side chaining it to the dry kick. Basically, what I did here is with the side chain, I just selected this pre-effects and then the audio from is set to the kick. So it's not side chaining it to the rumble. It's just side chaining it to that kick. So then after the rumble rack, I'll close this so you can kind of see what's going on. We have this drum bus. Here's without this. And then with it. So you can hear this is very important for making the kick punch through and making it just hit as hard as it possibly can. And it's really helping to glue the hi-hat to the kick as well. Like you can hear, this is really where when I turn this off, you can hear two separate things, but when I turn it on, it really sounds like one kick. You can see I've also got the chain tunes up on that. So that's helping with the punch and the kick. This is a little bit of a softer kick that you want to use in this style. Like, you know, it's not like the more like super hard hitting types of kicks you would hear in like an Umek track or something like that. So the transient thing there definitely helps to just give it a bit more punch and make it really, really hit while still being a softer kick. And the last thing we have here is this EQ8. This is just doing a low end boost. And then I have a low mid-range cut to cut out some mud. And then I have this mid-range boost. This is actually just for punch. If I turn this off and then turn it on, you'll hear the difference. So you can hear it's like that mid-range there is actually where a lot of the punch with the kick is. A lot of people think it's at like 100 hertz, which it is. But there's a different type of punch that's happening here. And that's more of like the that you hear, you know, like kind of the more audible thing as opposed to what you feel. So yeah, we're just kind of bringing that out a bit. And yeah, that is it for the kick. The next thing that we have here is the lead, which sounds like this. So what's happening here is it's playing this pattern. It's literally just 3 octaves of D sharp. And then I'm just kind of playing around with this cool like 16th note rhythm. I'm kind of like, you know, using the different octaves more as like different, you know, kind of almost like different percussive hits. Like the way this synth is set up, you'll see in a second, it's not really going to sound that melodic, so we can play around with the octaves here and still get an interesting sound. So yeah, and then for the synth on this one, I made it using Operator. It's an FM sound, as you may have guessed if you know a lot about synthesis. you can see this is the sound. It's just 4 sine waves here inside of operator, like I said. And you can see I've just kind of gone crazy with the pitches. So this is how you get this kind of more machine-like type of sound, is by pitching these coarse pitches up, but also by using this fine tune. If I turn these off, you can hear. It sounds a lot more, like I said, like you can hear the melody in there. It's a lot more just kind of cut and dry. But when we turn up those fine tunes, again, that's where it kind of takes it and gives it that more interesting texture. And then the other thing that's happening there is you can see I have this automation on the 3rd oscillator. That's what's making it go like. So it's kind of like 2 different things basically in the bar. Like if I turn off the automation on this and just have it stay in one place, you can hear the sound isn't as exciting as when it's really like morphing and changing like that. So yeah, and then I have those going into a low pass filter. Here's without it. And then with it, there's a bit of an envelope on there. This just helps to dial the sound back and make it a little bit cleaner and just a little bit less like insane. It kind of fits into the mix a bit better. And yeah, that is it for inside the synth. After that, we have this Redux. You can see I've got this on the hard setting, and I have the down sample, I cannot say that word, set like this. So you can see what's happening here is it's super low, but it's kind of like just slightly being moved up like this. You can hear that one right there if I turn that automation off. So yeah, this is just giving it a little bit more of some kind of morphing and evolving and changing things like I was talking about earlier. This is great, especially if you have like a very machine-like sound like this where it's not so much playing a melody as it is just kind of like, you know, creating cool textures and sounds. So this kind of stuff really helps. After that, we have a bit of chorus. It's just kind of making the sound a bit wider. You can see I have the feedback up as well, so that helps with the metallicness. If I turn this off, here's what it sounds like, and then I'll turn it on. You can hear it's kind of giving it a bit more resonance with that feedback and just making it, like I said, a bit more metallic. After that, we have this echo. Here's without this. And with it. So this is pretty subtle. It's just doing 8th notes, but you can hear it kind of obscures the sound. You know, it takes it, and because we have so many cascading echoes playing over top of each other while the sound is still playing constant notes, it makes it a little bit more interesting and just a little bit more creative and exciting to listen to. And then I have that on the ping pong setting as well, so that's making it stereo. With techno, you know, you definitely want to make sure that it works in mono, but you can't have stuff like this that's stereo. The reason why you want it to work in mono is because club systems are always in mono. They're never going to be, you know, super wide in the club. It's always just very mono. And so, yeah, you wouldn't want to usually have like a sound that's super stereo like this, but you can hear, even if I turn this echo off, it's still pretty much the same sound, so it does work to have this ping pong delay on there. After that, I have this erosion. You can see it's set like this. I have actually both settings on here being automated. I've got the amount and the frequency. This is another one of those things that's just giving the sound some more motion. You know, making it kind of build and not just stay in the same place. If I turn this off, you can hear. It still does have a lot of motion. But this just makes it that much more exciting. After that, we have this reverb. Here's without this. And with it, so this is subtle, but you can hear this is actually pretty important. It's giving a lot of atmosphere to the sound and just making the overall sound that much more big sounding. After that, we have this drum bus. This is really fattening the sound up. Here's without it. And then with it, so yeah, definitely important there. And then the last thing we have on there is just an EQ8 cutting out the lawn, and that is it for the lead. Next sound is the drone, which sounds like this. So here's the MIDI for this one. It's just playing these 2 notes, D sharp, and then the 5th of D sharp, which is A sharp. I've taken the A sharp and put it up an octave because this would be, you know, usually the 5th is 7 semitones up, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But I put it up an octave just to kind of spread the notes out a bit. And then, yeah, with this one, like, you don't want it to be super, super melodic. Like, I was thinking, I tried actually when I was working on this to do like a minor chord like this. And that sounds cool, but it doesn't really fit the style. I feel, like I said, the style is a lot more metallic sounding, so you want to go for stuff like this that doesn't really have like that kind of emotional feel to it that a minor chord would have, or even a major chord for that matter. For the sound on this one, this is also operator, so this is just 3 sine waves. You can see it's honestly kind of similar to the lead, because you can see I've got these at different chorus pitch settings, and then I have the fine tunes up, and then the key with this one is just not having the fine tune up too high, so you're still getting that movement and that kind of detuned sound, but it's just not so like crazy as the lead. And then I also have this LFO here. This is just on the volume of oscillator B. You can hear that if I turn it off. And then on again. Yeah, this is just giving the sound a bit more movement, kind of bringing it to life a bit. And yeah, after that we just have a bit of chorus. This chorus is kind of spreading the sound out, giving it just a bit more like depth as well. You know, makes it not just sound like a dry synth. Then we have this echo and this reverb. These are both working together to do sort of like the spaciness with the sound. I thought the echo would be interesting because even though this isn't very rhythmic, it's going like do 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 do. So having all those echoes cascading over each other sounds cool. And then the reverb, pretty much a no-brainer for any type of drone sound. After that we have this drum bus. This is just giving it a subtle sort of fattening up at the end of the chain. I'll turn it off and turn it on. So you can hear it just kind of makes it more like a sound and not just like a dry synth. And then the last thing we have on there is just this auto filter cutting out the line. And that is it for the drone. So the next thing here is the cymbals, which I'll show you. It's 2 layers. We have this ride. So just a pretty standard techno ride, you know, just you see the velocities on that one. And then I have the shaker. And yeah, with this one, what's important is just sort of like the timbre of the sound. Like, this isn't the style of shaker you would usually use in a lot of techno. Or if you did use this one, you would layer it, usually with something brighter. But I notice in a lot of these tracks, these darker shakers actually work very well. And it's because if you listen to the lead and the drone here, there's a lot of low end happening there. And then even with the ride, excuse me, there's a lot of high end happening there. And so it's like, you don't really need something to be super like that. This kind of more mid-rangey thing fits in better. Like, it's all about what fits into the mix, not just like what you want to use. And in this case, in the mix, if I turn this off, you can hear you really don't have that mid-range. So there you go. It's all about, again, just choosing sounds that fit into the mix, not necessarily like what you would just think would immediately be the best choice. So yeah, for this one, you can see you just got the shaker, bit of drum bus, and then an auto filter cutting out the line. I have the cymbals in a group. You can see on there I have a drum bus and an EQ8. So here's with nothing on the group. And then with everything. So you can see, yeah, it just kind of gives it that little extra push, I feel like. So the drum bus is just set like that, and then the EQ8 is really just cutting out the line. And also, like, making sure that it's cutting at 100 hertz, because that can sometimes get messy with the kick. And yeah, that is it for the cymbals. And that's me for this one as well, guys. This one was pretty simple. It's only like 6 layers. It's only 5 layers, technically, because that group counts as one of the tracks there. But yeah, it's only 5 layers, but you can see, like, it's not about how much stuff you use, it's about how you use it. Like, this is 5 layers that sounds just as full as any other techno track I've made that had, you know, 10 or 12 or 15 layers going on at the same time. So, yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Definitely something to think about for your own tracks. And yes, I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments down below. As always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's all already available. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.